Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Does our retirement system here in the U.S. make the grade? And what steps can you take to help ensure you have more than just a mediocre plan for your retirement? That is our topic today. We are so glad you're here with us on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. Going to be a great topic here on the show today, Philip. I hope you're doing great today. I hope all is well with you.
Doing good, Jen. It is... it's hard to believe that the holidays are just going to be here before we open our eyes, and
I know.
And then 2024 is going to be here, and you're going to think, what happened to 2023? And because it's going to just whiz right by. But we do have a good show today. It's going to be some interesting topic here as we talk about how the U.S. kind of compares with other countries, and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad.
Yeah, making the grade. I mean, your kids are all out of school now. I still have school-age kids. Even my oldest is still in college. So we live and die by report cards and grades. Like, this is how my family, this is still a big deal. This is still a big deal to my kids. And those parent-teacher conferences and getting those report cards every quarter, this is something that gets everybody all worked up in my house. And the annual retirement rankings are out, and the U.S. is in the middle of the pack. They have a C+ is the grade here on our retirement system. We ranked 22 out of 47 countries, and I just want to get your reaction here on a couple things, Philip. The gaps in the retirement system in the U.S. mean individuals have an important role to play in their own retirement future. About half of U.S. workers, Philip, do not have access to an employer's provided plan. 1 in 4 employers offer auto-enrollment at this time, so kind of lacking there. And then the number of workers who are withdrawing from their retirement savings early, that's increasing. So no surprise, I guess, that we have some gaps in our retirement system here.
We really do. When we talk about those numbers and just hear some of that, it opens us up to some issues, right? When we look at where our retirement dollars are going to come from when we finally decide to retire, I think it's going to be, it can be somewhat problematic. And we're already seeing that, right? That folks that rely 100% on Social Security are really taking it on the chin right now with all the inflation out there and housing costs getting so expensive that it's probably more of a problem today than we've ever seen before.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is certainly not a new topic. It's not the first time we've talked about anything like this. But Philip, how do you talk to people about, so going back to this grading really quickly, it examines both government and private sector sources of retirement income, exploring whether existing systems can continue to deliver. So again, this is something we've talked about before. How do you talk to people about how Social Security fits into their overall retirement strategy? And again, this is a system that people have some concerns about.
They do. And I would say somewhat rightly so, right? Because we keep hearing the numbers from the trustee that says, on X date, and that date keeps changing, we're going to have to reduce benefits to keep it going, or, X date, we're going to run out of money. I mean, those things they instill fear, right? And we don't like that. But, and so I've said for a long time that, Social Security has been mismanaged in terms of what they should have been doing 25, 30 years ago in, raising the tax rate, raising the income levels. But that's, at this point, we can't solve that, right? We have to look at how does Social Security how do people use it today? And unfortunately, too many people, it's their sole source of retirement. That's not what we want to have be the issue. We want the issue to be, it's a segment of our retirement income. And typically, if I'm sitting down with somebody, I want that Social Security to maybe be a third, a half if I have to, because they don't have a pension. But if it's going to be, more than a half of their total income coming in, that's going to be a problem for them. And you didn't retire to be stuck to this strict budget and to be always worrying about, can I afford to do things from that standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just not how anybody wants to be living, I think, retirement or otherwise. Talk a little bit about your process for helping people analyze not only what's going on with their Social Security and how that fits in, but also their other sources of income and the other factors that they need to be aware of. Talk about what that looks like as you are helping guide people through this.
First, I'm going to make a blanket statement that may not be exactly true, but it's what I see a lot of. People are claiming their Social Security too soon.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
They're thinking, I'm 62, I'm taking my Social Security. That may not be the best thing for you. I'm going to just say, because of insurance, health insurance, and all those other type of benefits we may be getting, it's tough for people to really retire before 65. We continue to see that being an issue. They need to work to at least Medicare age in order to take care of that whole health insurance part. And that's where we really look at our whole process of diving in and putting together that income plan, because that income plan, Jen, is going to give folks a roadmap. And we need a roadmap of where's our income going to come from in order to know that I can really afford to pull the trigger and to retire. And that's why we developed the core retirement design. And if you're 5 years out from retirement, you've already retired, this is what you need to make sure that you're on the right path to make sure that you don't run out of money in retirement. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. And you're right, we've talked before, Philip. I think there have been different studies and surveys about how many people are taking Social Security at the wrong time, taking it too early. It's one of those areas where we really want to be strategic, because you have a limited opportunity to undo that decision, but then you're kind of locked into it, Philip. So it's one of these areas where we want to be really strategic about this. Talk about how you talk to people about weighing some of those different factors before they start claiming their benefits, and also just getting strategic here when it comes to a decision like that. It could be a pretty sizable asset for you. You think about your Social Security, that could be a really big asset for you in retirement. We want to be strategic about making these decisions so we don't mismanage it.
Absolutely. And so one of the things when we're talking to somebody that has not retired yet is we want them to give us a copy of their Social Security statement. It's going to give them, here's your benefit at 62. Here's your benefit sometimes they'll give you a benefit at 65. Here's your benefit at 67. Here's your benefit at 70. It gives you the dollar amounts based on your current earnings, and if you keep earning at least that amount up until that point in time. And that's a very strategic piece. I encourage everybody out there to get a copy of that for themselves periodically so they can see what that benefit looks like down the road, because that helps us determine when's the best time for you to take your Social Security. And, knowing those numbers, we can plug those different numbers into our income planning process to determine if it makes sense or not to retire now, or maybe you would be way ahead by waiting 3 years to retire. That's the question we have to answer is when's the best time to pull that trigger? And do we have enough other assets out there to help compensate for not taking Social Security? Because let's face it, Social Security is a big deal when we're starting to look for retirement, because for a lot of folks, that is going to be a big portion of their retirement income. And if you get this wrong, you can't fix it, right? I mean, like you said, there's a very limited time where you can say, oh, I'll pay it back and let's do it different. again, you have to pay it back to do it different, right? So,
right.
So very limited, and we don't want to mess up that decision.
Right. And, there was recently, it was like a national news program about Social Security and how if there are accidental overpayments, if Social Security accidentally overpays you, it's on you to figure out how to pay that back, and you will get the bill and you'll have a limited time to do it. So that's just another thing to think about. My goodness, Philip, you think about some of these things that can go wrong.
The other thing to look at, Jen, is that, and people don't think about this part of it. For a married couple, it can be a death benefit. In other words, you have to remember you're going to get the higher of the two when somebody passes away.
Yeah.
And we need to be cognizant of that, because that can be part of our planning processes as well. And that's one of the things that we look at when we're looking at planning, because we know that when one spouse passes away, the other spouse is going to be left with one Social Security. It's going to be the highest of the two, but it's still only one.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just so many things to think about here. And you look at things like income, your Social Security, other sources of income, insurance, tax strategies, healthcare, investments, legacy planning. There are so many different pieces that go into a comprehensive retirement plan. And here's something else I want to say here, Philip. If you've been working with different financial professionals in all these different areas, it could be time to start talking to a retirement planner to really get dialed in on these retirement issues in your future.
Absolutely. A lot of people I work with have done a really good job of saving money. They know they need to think about taxes. They need to put together strategies to preserve their income and creating that legacy plan for their heirs and their loved ones. And when you work with someone who focuses on retirement, you can address all these different areas in one place. And we can talk about some of the main risks to your retirement, including taxes and tax increases that we know are coming shortly, volatility in the market, inflation, rising healthcare costs. We can look at strategies to help folks reduce their taxes in the future and be able to help preserve their retirement savings. We can help them maintain their current standard of living in retirement, even as costs continue to rise. And your legacy and inheritance goals for your loved ones. If that's important to you, we can make sure that that's part of your goal setting process that we get into, all in one place under one roof. We can help you do that. Folks, listen, that's why I developed the Core Retirement Design. Give us a call, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Would love to spend 30 minutes on the phone with you, answer your questions, make sure that you are heading in the right direction for the retirement you always dreamed of. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. More insights coming up next. Stay with us.
In times of volatility, the only wrong move is not making one. Call Philip and the team at Statler Financial Services today and find out where you currently stand with your portfolio. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago and you looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Well, it could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Team have helped hundreds of families plan for retirement for more than 20 years. They'll help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up a visit with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial. Just give them a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. And as with so many aspects of financial planning, when it comes to your health coverage in retirement, it is not a good idea to set it and forget it. And now is a good time to take a look at your healthcare coverage, your Medicare coverage for next year, because we are in the period known as open enrollment. It's Medicare's annual election period. It goes from October 15th to December 7th. And of course, open enrollment's what a lot of people call it. But when we're dealing with these official programs, they have their formal names and their acronyms, their AEP, annual election period. So why might we need to make changes in our coverage? What do we need to be thinking about here?
Well, whether you're new to Medicare or you've been in it for years, right? Open enrollment is your opportunity to review your current coverage and to make changes. And I encourage people to take the time, make sure that the coverage you have is going to meet your need in the coming year. Reasons you might want to make some changes. Your health has changed, right? You've got maybe this is not the right way to say it, but your health has declined, and so maybe now that Medicare Advantage may not be the best thing for you. Maybe you need to go back to a Medicare supplement. This is an opportunity to do that. Changes in your prescriptions, Medicare Part D coverage. Who's on your list, right? Changes in physicians that are available in your plan. That's always a kind of a moving target that you need to take a look at. And then costs, obviously, we want to be cognizant of we're paying what we need to pay, but not too much over that. Reimbursement. I mean, there's just all kinds of policy changes that come along, and you need to sit down and look to make sure that what you're doing still lines up with where you should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk real quickly, though, about what you can and can't do during this open enrollment period, because it's not a total free-for-all. We're kind of limited on some of the changes we can actually make here during this time.
Well, that's true. And so there are changes you can make, though, right? So none of them can involve medical underwriting when we look at these, right? So you can switch from a Medicare Advantage to the original Medicare, or vice versa. You can go back from the original Medicare to Medicare Advantage. You can switch from one Medicare Advantage plan to another. That's thus why you see all the advertisement out there, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can switch from one Part D prescription plan to another that maybe line up better with your medical prescriptions you're taking.
Sure.
And so that may be something you look at too. Maybe you didn't join Medicare Part D. You can do a late enrollment. Now, there may be a penalty when you do that, but at least you can have some access, and it may be worth it, right? To depend on how much your prescriptions are costing you. So we've got that whole thing. And now those are the things you can do. There are some things you cannot do during this time. And one is the annual Medicare open enrollment period does not apply to Medigap Medicare, right? Supplement plans. So, which are only guaranteed issue in most states during that first time that you apply. So that's important to know, is that you're not guaranteed. We talk about you have the ability to switch, right, from Medicare Advantage back to the original Medicare. But if you want to supplement, you may have to go through some underwriting to make that happen. If you didn't enroll in Medicare when you're first eligible, well, you can't use this fall open enrollment period to do that as your first time without some penalties in there. So there's some things in there that you got to look out for and make sure that you're following all the rules, because Medicare's got a lot of rules, Jen.
Yeah, it absolutely does. It's got a lot of rules. You can see why people get confused. Going back to the basics, I mean, there are literally the ABCs of Medicare. It's kind of like this alphabet soup with all these different letters and all these different parts. It's just a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, it really is. And let's let's talk about that a little bit. What do all the parts mean? Because if you're not applied for Medicare yet, you may not know what the alphabet soup really means, right? So Part A that's the part that pays for your hospital and your hospice and your skilled nursing care, your rehab, that type of thing. That's Part A. Now, there's some deductibles in Part A. There's no premium to pay, but those deductibles are kind of time period deductibles. You're so many days in the hospital are covered. Anything over, you pay for, or you have to pay at least some part of. Now, Medicare Part B is that part that pays for doctors, outpatient services, labs, medical equipment, all that kind of stuff. That's all associated with your Medicare Part B premium that you pay there. And that, people don't really realize this, but that premium can be increased based on your income. It is an income-based premium. A lot of folks don't think about that. Medicare Part C is what they call the Medicare Advantage plans. That's what you see a lot of advertising on TV about, is Medicare Advantage plans. And then Part D is the prescription drug plans. That's what covers your prescriptions and that type of stuff. So that's kind of the ABCs of the Medicare system.
Talk a little bit about how this fits into your overall process. Again, just one of those areas of preparing for retirement. It can be kind of overwhelming and confusing, but there's a lot more to preparing for retirement than just thinking about Medicare, and you've got some processes that can help bring all this together.
Absolutely. So that's what we developed, our core retirement design, to help people design that retirement they always dreamed of. Looking at the risks they have currently, looking at the tax implications going forward, because we know taxes are going up. And then the other thing is income plan, making sure we've got an income plan in place to get us through the rest of our life. That's our core retirement design. You can give us a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your analysis. Again, that's 863-285-3815. Give us a call. It's simple. It's easy. We'll make sure you're on the right path to the retirement you always dreamed of.
That number again, 863-285-3815. Now, as we talk today a little bit about Medicare, understanding some of the different options there, because I think, Philip, anybody who's getting close to retirement age, they're well aware of Medicare because they're getting lots of mail about it. They're feeling pretty popular with all this, right? But
that's right.
Here's the reality. Even with all the different parts of Medicare, it doesn't cover everything. I mean, it's not as if you don't have any medical expenses once you get Medicare. What are some of the services, procedures, what are some of the things we need to be aware of that Medicare does not actually cover?
So Medicare itself does not cover, eye exams and opticians. They don't cover hearing aids or dental work. They don't cover overseas care, podiatry, cosmetic surgery, nursing home care. I mean, there's a list of things they don't cover. And I want to circle back around. And that's, again, I know I've said this a couple of times, but that's why you see all these advertisements for the Medicare Advantage plans, right? Because those Medicare Advantage plans, they come in and they talk about, well, we'll cover your eyes, we'll cover hearing aids. They cover different things. And I'm gonna say this, that the one thing I want you to remember when it comes to Medicare Advantage plans, there is no free lunch.
Yep.
You're paying for whatever benefits are there. You're paying for them somehow. And you need to understand how that is before you decide what kind of Medicare coverage you want to have going forward, Jen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good reminder. There's no free lunch. We got to be thinking about this. When we are, Philip, thinking about some of the options though to cover the things that we need to take care of out of pocket, should we look at things like health savings accounts? What are some options for getting prepared for some of these healthcare costs that we're going to need to be able to cover in retirement?
Well, health savings accounts are great, right? Because they hang around as long as you need them, as long as you got some money in them. But how you fund them is you got to have a high deductible health plan in order to fund them, right? And so that's an area that you have to realize is that, you may end up with a higher deductible. If you're healthy, it's probably not a big deal, right? You put that money away for later, and your premiums are less than the non-high deductible insurance plans. So it's definitely something to look at. And I know even in the Medicare world, the Medicare supplement world, there's even some high deductible Medicare type plans as well that you don't hear about a lot, but there are some out there available.
I know we talked about this a little bit ago, but again, for people who need to be thinking about things like their healthcare costs, their Medicare decisions in retirement, as well as some of these other areas of preparing for retirement, thinking about your income, thinking about your taxes, what's going on with your investment strategies. Walk us through the process for helping bring all of this together.
So there's a lot of moving parts when we get ready to retire. I mean, you just mentioned medical, taxes. Those are two big things when we start looking at how we're going to retire. Where's the money going to come from? These are all important questions that you need to get some answers to before you pull that trigger to retire. And that's why we developed the core retirement design, because we walk through that process of designing a plan for you to make sure you're going to have the income month in and month out, whether you're on regular Medicare, you're on Medicare Advantage plan. I mean, we look at all those expenses that we're going to have and build a plan that's going to help us get to the right spot, right? That's why we developed the core retirement design. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815 for your core retirement analysis. Again, 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. More insights from Philip coming up next. Stay with us.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
You can't see it, but you sure can feel it. The economy is struggling right now. Do you know how it might affect your retirement? Some retirement plans take into account economic downturns, stock market dips, interest rate fluctuations. Does yours? Take charge of your retirement by calling Philip Statler at 863-285-3815. Philip and his team at Statler Financial have been helping families prepare for retirement for over 20 years. They will help address the current economic situation and help you create a retirement plan designed to give you the confidence to move forward. Opportunities can exist regardless of economic conditions. Call the team, Philip Statler with Statler Financial at 863-285-3815 and find out ways you can prepare now for your retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Call them now. Schedule a visit. Let's get started. Firm offers insurance services. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I am Jen Rezac alongside. Today we're talking Medicare because when you're getting closer to 65, you might feel pretty popular with all that mail you're getting about Medicare. And this is a big step to take. I feel like it's one of those things, Philip, you hear people talk about, oh man, I'm ready to start taking Medicare. You've heard about it for so long. But even after you're all signed up, you don't just put this on cruise control. We have this annual election period. It goes from October 15th to December 7th of every year, and it's a good idea to use that to take advantage of the opportunity to make necessary changes. And, of course, there are rules about what you can change, all of that. But that's why we're talking today about Medicare, is because of this open enrollment period that we find ourselves in. But here's something else, Philip, that I think we ought to talk about here at the end of 2023, and that is we know what to expect in terms of increases for Medicare in 2024. So there will be about a $10 increase in the standard monthly premium for Medicare Part B. We know that's come out. The annual deductible for Part B is going to be about $240 in 2024. These are increases projected mostly because of increases in healthcare spending. But here's something I want to talk about, Philip. Higher income earners will pay more for Medicare Part B due to income-related monthly adjustment amounts, or IRMA charges. These charges will apply next year to individuals with more than $103,000 and married couples with more than $206,000 in modified adjusted gross income. Just another one of those areas where we can get dinged if we aren't aware of what's going on here.
Well, you can, and you can get dinged unexpectedly, big time. I mean, I've seen it. Somebody retired, sells a big piece of property, and all of a sudden has this big capital gain, and that bumps up their adjusted gross income. And now, and the thing is, it doesn't happen immediately, right? You file your tax return. It may be a year before they adjust, make this adjustment for IRMA. And so now all of a sudden, this one person I'm thinking of went from, paying the normal Part B rate, which is now $174, to, $400 and some a month that was coming out of their Social Security for IRMA because of this property sale. They had no idea that it was going to happen. And so it can catch you by surprise if you don't. I mean, we think about tax brackets, right? That's a no-brainer. We know we're going to pay taxes, but folks that are on Medicare have to remember these IRMA brackets, and it doesn't necessarily take a lot, one big sale of property or one big capital gain to put you over. The other place that we see this an issue is in the Roth conversion world.
Yep.
Somebody thinks, well, I'm going to go convert my IRA to a Roth IRA, and now I got $250,000 more income. Well, that's
Yikes.
not that may be good from a tax standpoint,
right.
but now, your Medicare tax is going to go up, or Medicare premium is going to go up.
Yep.
And so, just to give you an idea, like you said, the base rate is going to be $174.70. For a single person, you get over that $103 of adjusted gross income, and now it's going to go to almost $245 a month.
Wow.
If you had some big event for a single person, the max comes out at $500,000. So you have adjusted gross income of $500,000, it's going to go to almost $600 a month.
Wow.
And people think, well, I'm not going to make that much. Well, think about it. Think about real estate. How much has real estate gone up, right?
Sure.
And you sell a piece of rental property. Now, all of a sudden, you may have a gain that comes close to that amount. Now, that's single. Now, for a couple, married couple, it stays pretty consistent with double what single is until you get to that last two tranches, I'll say, right? And so, single is the next to the last bracket is $193,000 to $500,000. Well, on a married couple, it's $386,000 to $750,000. You don't get that double 500 to $1 million. So you need to keep that in mind for anything you do. In our planning process, when we're especially looking at Roth conversions and that type of thing, we're cognizant of what is that going to do to somebody's IRMA, and is it worth it? Because we always look at tax brackets. If somebody's in the 12% tax bracket and we're looking at Roth conversions, well, we want to try to keep you in that 12% tax bracket, but max it out. Use it to the very nth degree to do your Roth conversions. Well, is that going to put me over IRMA? Mm-hmm. In a 12% tax bracket, probably not. But if you're in the 22% tax bracket It very well could.
Yeah.
And so these are areas that we have to look at and recognize that there could be a problem there. In our core retirement design, when we talk about that second step, that tax step, making sure that we're paying the least amount of taxes, not just today, but over our lifetime and over our kids' lifetime, right? So that's part of that process that we look at. That's part of that core retirement design. If you're not looking at the tax implications of retirement, you really need to give us a call. 863-285-3815, because taxes is a big deal when it comes to retirement. That number again is 863-285-3815. I'd love to spend 30 minutes with you, talk to you about where you are, what maybe roadblocks you may be facing, and just make sure you're on the right path to the retirement you always dreamed of. That number one more time is 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring. I'm Jen Rezac alongside. And, Philip, as you talk about all these different decisions, all these different areas that can impact another part of your finances for retirement, it kind of makes me think of the domino effect, where, and I've seen studies where you've just seen those videos on YouTube or whatever of those crazy domino effect videos where you knock over this one tile and all of a sudden it just triggers a whole string of responses. That's kind of what this reminds me of. Just important that we're mindful of that. And we are not making decisions in a vacuum. And we're talking to somebody who can help us think through all the different moves and all the different impacts, because you don't want to trigger a total avalanche of all these bad decisions that can pile up on you with your retirement.
Absolutely. And this is one of those areas where if you are not paying attention, your advisor's not paying attention, it can cost you some big dollars.
Yeah. And
not for short term. I mean, when that IRMA gets switched, it's a year that you're going to pay those higher premiums. You're going to pay that higher amount. And we talked about IRMA in terms of Medicare, but it also affects your Medicare Part D premium.
Oh, okay.
So obviously the premiums on Medicare Part D, there's not a set premium like there is on Medicare. But there is, I'm going to say, a stipend that gets added to it if your income goes over a certain level. So we talked about that single person that their IRMA hits $103,000, their Medicare Part B goes up by about $60, $70. It goes to $245. Well, their Medicare Part D is going to go up by almost $13. No matter what they're paying, they're going to pay an extra $13. I mean, just that, they're going to go up basically $70, $80, $83. If you miscalculate, then that's every month that you're going to pay that extra. So it's definitely an area we want to pay attention to. And especially we know taxes are going to go up no matter what, right, in 2026.
Sure.
So we don't want to compound that. We want to make sure that we're staying under the IRMA rules, or if not, make sure that we understand what that additional cost is going to be. That pain may outweigh the benefit. So you just want to make sure you understand what the true cost is going to be.
Philip, what does this look like? Or do you talk to people about perhaps getting kind of a second opinion before we start making any decisions when it comes to things like our income, making different moves with things like Social Security, and just being mindful of all of this? Do you ever talk to people about this idea of perhaps getting a second opinion before you make any of these decisions, or lock yourself into any moves that could end up being rather costly for you?
Well, we always recommend that folks, number one, work with somebody that looks at the whole picture.
Yes.
A lot of people say they're holistic, but what does that mean? Do they really put together a whole tax plan for you? Do they look at your whole healthcare issue? Are those things or they just look at the investment side? Mm-hmm. Holistic to me means that I'm looking at your whole picture. I want to make sure that we're going to be in a position where we're paying the least amount of taxes possible over your lifetime. And that's not just some simple equation. That takes some planning. rolling up your sleeves and putting some numbers together and running some scenarios out for 5-10 years to see what that's going to look like for folks. And so that's what we do as part of our core retirement design when we're trying to design, especially that tax part of it. What does that look like for the next 5 years? Can we put together a conversion plan for your IRA over the next 5 to 8, maybe it takes 10 years. It's not a one and done. You got to work with somebody that's going to, roll up their sleeves, be with you, and walk through that process for the next 8, 9, 10 years.
Absolutely. Just one of these things to think about, Philip, for people who are interested in learning about the process, trying to figure out what are some of the moves they ought to consider making, starting that conversation with you today. Talk to us about how we can get that started.
Absolutely. One of the things I've always said is that core retirement design, I worked on that to get that prepared so that people would understand the amount of risk they have, make sure they're paying the least amount of taxes, and have the income to last their lifetime. And here's what I've started doing. To make it easy, you can actually go to our website. There's a link to our calendar. We'll give you 30 minutes of our time. Answer whatever questions you may have to make sure that you are on the right path for the retirement you always dreamed of. It's that simple, folks. You can call the office. Alexis will be glad to put you on the schedule for a 30-minute phone call to make sure that you're doing what you need to be doing to prepare for retirement. I don't want anybody to go into retirement not prepared the way they need to be. I'm willing to provide 30 minutes of my time to answer those questions. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815, or you can go to our website at statlerfinancial.com.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. More insights from Philip coming up next. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. Remember that first paycheck when you started working all those years ago and you looked at the net amount and thought, whoa, what happened here? Well, it could be this way with your retirement accounts. You know how much you've saved, but if you haven't planned for Uncle Sam, you could come up short in retirement. With tax laws constantly changing, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're not paying more than your fair share. Philip Statler and the Statler Financial Team have helped hundreds of families plan for retirement for more than 20 years. They'll help you create a plan that shows you how taxes could affect you now and in the future. Set up a visit with Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial. Just give them a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Make sure you know how these changes could affect you so you can avoid some of those whoa moments in retirement. Call 863-285-3815. Firm offers insurance services but may not give tax advice. Advisory services are offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside. And Philip, you get questions each and every week about all things retirement, so we are going to get into our Statler Financial mailbag here. Carolyn from Avon Park says, my husband just retired and I am planning to leave my job within the next few months. I just haven't been able to get my replacement trained, but then I'll be all set to retire. I am excited, but already my husband has started to pinch pennies everywhere. I can't even get him to talk about taking our first trip after I retire. This is already driving me crazy. How do I get him to get comfortable with the idea of spending some of our savings on some of the fun things? Because this is what we saved it for.
We see that so often when folks get ready to retire because they're like, yeah, I don't want to spend that. I might need it later. And I got to say that when it comes to that, it's really about the plan. And I'm going to guess based on this that you haven't put together any kind of income plan. because an income plan is going to be, okay, here's how much money I need to live off of and to do those things, right? We plan for that trip or, a couple trips a year to see the grandkids or just to take the cruises and those type of things. I mean, that's the whole idea of retirement, is to be on a different timetable than when you were working, right? And
Right.
and that means taking some trips and doing the fun things. And so I'm going to say that it comes down to having that written retirement income plan, because that written retirement income plan would give your husband some certainty, right? He would understand that, oh, I can take this amount of money now because I can see in year 25, I still have money in my accounts and I've been able to take all this money out and live in retirement. And so I think that's a big part of it, Jen, is just making sure that folks have that written retirement income plan, because it does give that certainty to retirement.
863-285-3815, by the way, is how you can reach Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. That's 863-285-3815. Our next question is from Paul from Sebring, who says there are some local charities that we have regularly supported throughout our careers. We don't want to completely abandon those causes now that we're retired, but it does seem kind of scary to keep giving as much when we are on this fixed income now. Should we hold off on charitable giving for now if we're worried about the financial impact?
I'm not going to say you should hold off, right? Because if you have a plan in place, then that plan can help impact those charities, right? We know that we can plan for that within our income to have the extra money we need to continue to do what we've been doing. It's all about putting together that budget, Paul, and knowing what money we need, so we know what we need to draw from. So if I got my Social Security and my wife's Social Security and maybe we got a pension, well, there's a shortfall in there. And that's what your money, your IRAs and stuff are for, is to make up that shortfall. As long as we do that and you include those charities within that budget, then you should be good. I want to move past that, though, and give you some opportunities down the road. Because if you're just retiring, this probably isn't going to apply to you yet, right? So some different tax strategies when it comes to charitable giving. Because once you reach that age of 70 and a half, you can start using your IRA as a charitable giving mechanism. We can do what's called a qualified charitable distribution. And it's pretty cool, Paul, because what it does, it helps offset your required minimum distribution and can actually make it where you have to pay no tax on that money that you give to charity.
Wow.
Again, that's down the road when you reach 70 and a half. There's other avenues that we can bunch up some stuff called DAFs, that's donor advised funds, where we can make a huge charitable contribution now, get the tax deduction for it, but limit how much we give those charities on an annual basis. You decide when they get the money. So, that's the other option when it comes to charitable giving. That one can be done at any point in time. Again, the QCDs only work once you reach that magic age of 70 and a half. But man, if you're a charitable giver, that is like a gold mine for folks. But again, Paul, it all comes down to that income plan, and having that income plan in place allows you that certainty that your money is going to last. Maybe it ebbs and flows a little bit, but you know that you can still take care of that charity that you've been taking care of for a long time.
863-285-3815. Again, that's the way you can reach Philip Statler and the team at Statler Financial Services. That's 863-285-3815. Philip, let's move on to another question here. Ron from Wauchula wonders about Social Security. Is this benefit going to be taxed? I cannot figure out what to expect with that.
It depends. And nobody likes that answer, but it is the truth, is that we won't know if your Social Security benefit is going to be taxed until we know what other income you have that is going to be taxable for the year in which you start taking your Social Security. It's one of those things that there's this complicated IRS formula to determine how much of your Social Security ends up being taxable. The short answer is that most people end up having to pay some tax on their Social Security. Now, let me just say, if that is the only income you have is your Social Security benefit, no part-time job, no investment income, no IRA income, then most likely you won't have to pay any tax on your Social Security because you don't have any other income. I think that becomes part of the deal. And so, but let me go back, because talking about Social Security being taxed, the bigger question should be, when should I take my Social Security? When does it make sense for me to take my Social Security? And that comes back to our core retirement design and the third part of that, where we put together that income plan. Because our income plan takes into consideration, when are we going to take Social Security? Because we'll look at different options. And you didn't tell me your age, Ron, but let's just say you're 65. Well, you got to wait 2 more years to probably get to full retirement age. And so does it make sense to wait those 2 years? Or should I go ahead and take my Social Security now? Those are some of the answers that we get when we put together our income plan. So it's important. Again, it feeds back to that, making sure that you've got a plan in place that takes into consideration what those things look like. I do want to remind people where they can send us their questions, because we like to get questions every week. And so if they can actually email us their questions at statlerfinancial@gmail.com. That's statlerfinancial@gmail.com. And I'd love to get the questions in.
As we close this out today, let's just talk real quickly about people who maybe they have questions, and not only do they want to get some questions answered from you, but they'd like to start learning a little bit more about their own financial situation, getting that analysis of what they have going on so they can start figuring out the steps to take from here. Talk a little bit about what this looks like, the time that you can spend with them to help them get some of those initial questions answered.
You know, one of the things that we like to do is we gift 30 minutes of our time. You know, we'd love to have a 30-minute phone consultation with you. We'll answer whatever questions you have about your retirement, about getting ready for retirement, about Social Security, you know, whatever it may be. We'll look at all the different aspects of your retirement. What do you have saved for IRAs or 401ks? What do you have? Or do you know what your Social Security is going to be? That'll be one of the big questions I ask, because a lot of times people don't know. If they don't, we'll make sure that you get the information you need to get that for us, so that then that helps you determine when's the best time to take your Social Security. All of that is part of our core retirement analysis phone consultation. Give us a call, 863-285-3815. It's that easy. It's a phone call, 863-285-3815. Don't let this opportunity slip away.
That number one more time that Philip has shared throughout, 863-285-3815. And be sure to tune in again next week for more insights from Philip. Have a great week.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.